It's part of their program and they're doing field work here. Part of their course was kids.
Yeah, there you go. You are.
Yeah. Just get ready.
Roger?
Oh, yeah.
Fine, thanks. How about you? It's like somebody
How's it going? Oh, you're from the press, huh?
Yeah, John Day's
well, could be, but I would say they're not, you don't have them. This is just the only one I
Drying right out of the shower. Okay, it is just after 7 o'clock and we're going to start our meeting. I'd like to welcome everybody to the October 17th Lodi Unified School Board meeting. Mr. Heberly is spending some quality time with grandchildren and family right now, so he won't be here tonight. I thought we were going to, he was going to call in, but I guess we didn't quite get around to that. So, roll call, everyone's here with the exception of Mr. Heberly. Student representative, Rajan from Bear Creek, good to see you. And Felipe from Lodi High, good to see you. Glad you gentlemen could join us tonight. We need the Pledge of Allegiance. Join me, please. Face the flag, salute, and pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Real quickly, report on action items of closed session on the placement of non-public school students. Mr. Talkin motioned, Mr. Knaxat seconded, and the board approved the placement of 2017-18 non-public school students numbers 73, 74, 75, and 76 by the following vote. Ayes 6, absent 1. On the matter of public employee complaint / dismissal / release. Again, Mr. Talkin motioned, Mr. Nava seconded, and the board voted to uphold the superintendent's decision pertaining to constituent complaint under board rule 1312.1 by the following vote. 6 ayes and 1 absent. And that was all that took place in closed session. First thing on the agenda is a public hearing for the Lodi Public Personnel Association, LPPA, reopeners for the year 2017-2018. We will open that public hearing. Any comments from the public or the board? Seeing none, we will close that public meeting. Superintendent's report. You are on.
Thank you, Mr. Neely. We are happy to be back, and everybody is back in full swing. Not a whole lot to report since we've had a 2-week break, but we do have one remaining picture to show you about Westwood's health fair. We get that. Either that or we stand on our head sides.
I can show you guys how to turn that after the meeting's over. No, turning the computer sideways won't help.
Yes, sir. Oh. Well, you can see that there is a familiar face there. The second one from the ceiling, Mr. Ron Freitas in the paddy wagon there being hauled off somewhere, along with our nurse who organized the event and the administrators from Westwood. So they're going to try. Mr. Freitas, do you have that picture? We need to send that to you if you don't have that picture. One reminder while they're doing that, casino night is this Saturday night. Please grab a group of friends and join us for a fun event, all to benefit Got Kids. All money goes directly to our schools and classrooms. It is the foundation's largest fundraiser, so we need folks there to help us generate funds so that we can fund the grants requests that come in from our teachers and our schools, and also programs from the foundation to help kids. We have t-shirts on sale. They are going like hotcakes. Transportation department has been awesome. They have purchased a lot of shirts, and I understand that they all wear them on Fridays. We also have this very stylish bag that comes in many colors that you can order with the Got Kids logo. So lots of fun things to help support, and when you do, children in need receive clothing. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Washer. We're now to the point of comments from the public. I do have one card. Martha Simon, come on down.
Good evening, Mr. Neely, members of the board, and Dr. Washer. I am glad to be back at work. I was sharing with Ms. Vedeka that indeed yesterday the students were asleep, and today we were dragging and the students were wide awake. The reason that I came before you tonight is I wanted to go back to a topic that you had at last board meeting, which was professional development, and I think you all know that I sent you a little email that said we do have a lot of opportunities to offer in Lodi Unified School District that we could use those Title II monies and other things that you were talking about that might not necessarily involve our tech coaches. For example, we do have 10 to 12 Fresno Pacific College courses on the books from back in the day when I was a technology coach. I'm perfectly still capable of teaching those classes. We have the Den Ambassador program that I'll go back to teaching in January with the help of our district. And also just in the last Saturday, there was the Day of Discovery that was put on in Lincoln Unified that we could participate in. This Saturday, there's a fall VERCON with Discovery Education. My school takes advantage of the actual ongoing professional development with Discovery Education all the time, and we could open that up to other people in our district as well. And next February, in the last Saturday in February, there's what's called the ETC conference that's held at Stanislaus State. That is an interdisciplinary conference. This Saturday, there's also the Fall Q Conference in Napa County. Despite all the things that have been going on there, they are still holding that conference at American Canyon High School. And next spring, during our March break, there's also the Spring Q Conference. There's the ISTE Conference nationally. The thing I'd like to impress upon you is that we do have a lot of really highly trained coaches in our district in various disciplines, from technology to English to math. They need to get out and go to those conferences if we're going to keep the train-the-trainer model in place. And otherwise, we need to maybe return to some of the things we used to do in our district, such as offering classes for college credit. When I put things out to teachers, it's that not so much that they want to get paid for their time, They want to have opportunities where they can get college credit and move on the salary schedule. So I thank you for your time tonight, and I do look forward to working with you about doing professional development while we're getting the RBET in place. Thank you.
Thank you, Martha. Appreciate that. Any other comments? Seeing none, we'll move right along. Brings us to the consent agenda A. Are there any items that board?
Can you give us 1 second? Mr. Nolan's password's not working, so we need to get that squared away.
We don't need that.
Give us Mr. Everly's password.
Okay, George. I'll see you next meeting, 24th.
And I was on the roll, I was shooting for 8 o'clock.
I thought you could make 7:30. I got 2 people waiting at the house for me.
Dad's away. Good voice, well, you work.
Yeah, I can do a voice. That's
Do
no
that?
problem. Yeah.
All right, let's go. All right, consent agenda A, are there any items?
A2, Mr. President.
We have item A2,
A10 for a question.
A10, Ms. Castle. Any others?
Mr. President?
Hold on a second.
Oh,
Are there any items that members from the public would like to pull?
A9?
A9. Yeah.
Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
I move the remaining A items be approved.
Thank you, Mr. Talker. Do I get a second now?
Second.
Mr. Thomas got a second. Now, I'm not going to put those on here. So I'll,
Not yet.
not yet. Okay. So,
If you vote real slow, I'll have it ready.
Let's do the voice votes for everybody.
let's start down here with Mr. Freitas.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
And aye. So we have 6 ayes and 1 absent. Is that slow enough? I tell you what, let's move right on down the line. Item A2, Mr. Knaxa.
I just wanted to point out that among all the gracious gifts and donations we received, Got Kids had the highest one with $19,250. So, way to go, guys.
Good
We need
point.
to replenish.
Good point. Did you happen to bring that draft? Guys, the superintendent's put together a annual report for Got Kids for 16-17. You have got to see it. It is outstanding, and she did it herself. That's pretty amazing, I
Did
tell
it
you.
in Hawaii.
Oh,
Mr. President, I move approval of A2.
Have a motion
Second.
and a second. Let's start down. Are we ready yet?
All right.
Yeah, start down.
I think I've had that before. That's a good one.
No, they don't have it anyway. They're going to be able to get the 18. So, Mr. Freitas.
Aye.
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 Joe?
Aye.
Aye. All right, that's 6-1. Let's move on down now to item A9. Would like to take these in order. Michelle? Since Ron wasn't here, I thought we were going to get by this one tonight.
What? Regarding A9, and I don't know if through the chair to Ms. Fedica, upon looking at the submitted form, I guess, my understanding is that there are no complaints. How many schools are involved in this report? Is it all Title I campuses, or is it certain Title I campuses? Because I know I've had members say that as Williams walked through, they pointed out issues that needed to be fixed on campuses. And this
Was there
I
a report
believe-
filed on it?
Well, I believe they pointed it out to Williams Act people, which I want clarified. Do teachers need to make a complaint for it to show up on the report to be seen? Or is pointing it out to a Williams Act committee group the way to point out maybe structural issues?
Mr. Neely, members of the board, I think there's some confusion as to the process. This was not a report on the Williams visit. This is the quarterly report that we must submit to the board if we have received any complaints. So that is a separate report where there are folks from the county that come out and review the schools. This is not that, and I'm going to ask Ms. Fedica to correct me if I'm wrong.
It's a UCP complaints, it's Uniform Complaint Procedures. It's not even Williams, as far as textbooks.
Okay, so, and when they file, so that's your answer, right?
I believe
It
so.
has to be, all right, now, when that is filed, who is it filed with?
Us.
Okay, so then we get a chance to rectify the situation, because that's the old thing, you can't fix what you don't know is wrong. So,
And that's the concern is it looks like it's zero. And I know that there's another component, but when would that come before the board?
That already has, I believe, this, for this year, as we have
But the
had.
county's already.
Yeah, they've already come.
But there was zero, and it was a select number of schools, correct?
Correct.
And so when would we address any Williams issues or know what's
Already
been
been
called
done.
out?
That's already in the process.
can
Okay,
we get a readout on that maybe at a future board meeting?
Sure.
And then we'll talk about it at that point, is that good?
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so, any other discussion on
Approve
anything?
item E9.
Second.
Okay, I have got a
We're here.
motion and a second, and I'm waiting for something to come up on my,
Mr. Neely, don't forget the student vote.
oh, student vote, thank you very much. Forgot about you guys, everybody, you're so quiet.
I do this.
All right, are you gonna be able to get this up on the,
Yeah.
I got it.
I'm in.
I'm in.
I'm in.
scroll on? I've already. Oh, wait, you're right. Where's the ones that put their names?
I did it.
You did it.
I took care of that.
Okay.
Anyway, hit the gavel too.
There we go, ready, so, it's jarred it.
Sorry.
Okay, student vote.
Aye.
2 ayes. Board vote, 6 yes, 1 absent. Item 810, Ms. Castle.
Dr. Washer, this one looked so interesting to me. It said counselor education field experience with Stan State. Would you mind just telling us a little bit about that?
Ms. Castle, members board, I can tell you a little bit about that. This is an agreement with Stan State. As you know, we work with them on a lot of different fronts. They have a program for counselors, and they have requested that we accept their students to do their field experience with us and with our folks. This is not the first time, I believe this is maybe the second time that we've had this specific request from them, but in order for them to be able to work in our district and get that experience, there has to be an agreement with the district. And so that's what this is. And Ms. Fedica, do you have anything else?
Okay. And thank you. And with that, I'd like to make a motion to pass.
Second.
Okay, motion and seconded. You're gonna have to,
Students,
yeah, you're gonna have to show me on here though where to put the names. You're gonna take care of all of it?
I'm doing it.
Okay. Student vote.
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. All right, calling for the vote. Again, it passes 6-1.
It's technology, George Thompson, they do everything for you.
Well, I thought we talked about that before the meeting.
Yeah.
I must have misunderstood you. Yeah, I didn't do it.
Thanks, Don. Okay, moving on down, other action items.
We've got one more item that is pulled.
No, we did 2, 9, and 10.
Oh, we're on the other half. Sorry.
All right, other action items? Mr. McKellar?
Yeah, Mr. President, we have a tentative agreement here for you this evening. It has been ratified by CSEA and is now before the board for approval.
Thank you, Mr. McKellar.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve this agreement.
Second?
Okay, we do have a motion and a second. Let's go ahead and see if there's any discussion from the board, from the audience. We do a student on this one, even though it's personnel?
Yeah.
Okay. It's a big deal, guys. You need to vote on a big contract here, all right? All in favor?
Aye.
Students agree. All right, bringing it to the board for a vote. And the agreement passes. 6-1.
Congratulations, CSEA.
Thank you very much, Deborah, for all your work on this. Item 2, an increase in substitute teacher pay rate by 4%. Mr. McGilligan.
Mr. President, at this point now, we have agreements with the majority of employees, which contain salary improvements for them of 2% for 16-17 and 2% for 17-18. So the last time we made an increase to the substitute teacher pay rate was 2 years ago after the last agreement. So we thought we would come forward and propose that we increase the substitute teacher pay by 4% effective January 1, 2018. That way we don't have to deal with any retro type thing, but we can bring them up commensurate with what we give other employees.
Makes sense to me.
Mr.
Any
McCollum,
discussion? Go ahead.
how competitive are we now with the surrounding districts with this increase?
I'd say they're all pretty competitive right now.
Okay.
Mr. President, I move approval.
Second.
Any comments from the public? Stretching, or would you like to speak?
Is there a difference? Looking at the 4%, and Mr. Knaxich, you asked about comparability. When we look at our neighboring district in Stockton, for a teacher coming in with, not a retired teacher, just somebody brand new sub coming in, they would make, with the currently 120, with the 4%, they'd make $124.80. For 5 days working in Stockton, they can make $170.17. If they work between 6 and 18 days, they make $182.42 a day. Beyond the 18 days, they're put on a salary schedule. In our district, if you're a retired teacher who has a credential and you teach between 1 and 91 days, you make $175. This is what we're hearing from some of our substitutes, that it is not competitive. So with that, I want those numbers out there, because if you look at 91 days as a sub working through to get the highest pay in Lodi, you would actually get $166.40, which is still less than day one in Stockton. Now, do I think my district's better? Yes. Would I want people to come to us more frequently than choosing a neighboring district? Yes. But in this day and age, we have many people making those choices to go to neighboring districts because of financial reimbursement for the job done. So just want those numbers out there and be aware that that's with Stockton's latest increase. That's what we're being compared to and what they're.
Michelle, do you also have Lincoln and Galt?
I do not, and Lincoln is still in the midst of doing some negotiation.
But they're lower than we are. Then.
I think they're pretty 135, I think.
They're lower.
Okay. They're what?
They're lower.
They are lower?
Yeah, they just called me recently.
Okay,
They're worried that they're lower.
yeah. Are we having any problems getting substitutes?
I think everybody's having trouble getting substitutes, but we're, relative to Stockton, we're doing really well.
Yeah.
They're having a real difficult time. They've been an outlier for 40 years. They paid significantly more. They were when I was substituting years ago. But that, we don't have our substitutes running down to Stockton, so.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and that's a point. It can be tough. I mean, Stockton's got a tough place there in some of their schools. It's,
You guys tough.
try to be. Yes, sir.
Mr. McKilligan pretty much touched up on it. I was just gonna, because I don't really know much about this issue, but I know that substitutes are in demand, especially with teachers coming in and out of leave, and obviously neighboring districts with contracts like increasing and negotiation going on around this time. It is getting very competitive. But I just want to know, is there like a large discrepancies between the two districts, and how is that affecting you guys specifically? Like, I understand that some subs are choosing to go to other ones, but on our campus at Bear Creek, it doesn't seem to be substitute teachers are an issue. So I just like personally, I just didn't know, and I just wanted more information regarding that.
Thank you for your input, sir.
Quick question for
Joyce,
Mike,
yes.
just a quick answer. Do we require our substitutes to belong to the union?
No, they're not.
Okay, Stockton Unified does. They
Yeah.
pay $30 a month to the union. In case they strike, everybody's gone.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Mr. President, I believe our student rep was asking some questions. Did you
Oh, I'm
want us to
sorry. I didn't
answer?
quite get that part.
I was just wanted further clarification on how big of an issue this is, because on our campus, I haven't personally seen it with a deficiency with substitute teachers and people wanting to come to our schools, because Lodi Unified does have some of the best schools within the county and within Northern California, I would say personally from experience. But I was just wondering how big of an issue it is.
So have you seen that this year, the problem substitutes?
I did. I have seen substitutes. I have not seen a large issue where there is one that is needed and we can't fill it. People are willing to come to our school. Our district has a great reputation. People want to come interact with our students and kind of aid our process with what we're doing within the classroom. So that's what I personally think. Like when I see this issue, but I have not seen like a true stretch or a true struggle.
I think we're doing quite a bit better this year than we have in previous years. We've made quite a few changes. Also, the intern program that you guys are responsible for has really gone a long way in kind of the substitute problem, and moving the professional developments away from the Mondays and Fridays and that kind of thing has helped significantly as well. So,
Yes, Mr. Heavily, members of the board, and our student reps.
Steve.
I'm sorry.
Mr.
I was waiting for you.
That's,
It's the same thing.
force of habit. Mr.
Don't go away,
Neely,
guys.
Mr. Neely, members of the board, you are correct. I think that we are doing much better this year. It has traditionally been an issue that we have discussed with board in the past, because there have been many occasions where teachers have been called back from professional development because the substitute didn't show up. We weren't able to get one. I think that we have raised our pay several times. You've done that a couple times now. Plus the fact that we cut way back on the amount of time that we're pulling teachers out of class for district trainings. I think that's huge. We can't control the illness and those kinds of things that happen. That's going to happen. But you're right, teachers sub in Lodi because they like to sub in the Lodi school, unified schools, whether it's our Stockton or Lodi schools. They choose that because of location and because of our schools and our students and our districts. So yes, they are making that choice to be in Lodi Unified, and I think that we have tried very hard to take steps to help decrease the problem of not having substitutes on campus. So I'm glad to hear that you're not seeing that as a student. Thank you.
And as we continue to develop this individualized professional development concept, we'll see less and less teachers having to get pulled out of classes and replaced with the substitutes. So, okay. Any further discussion? All right, we've got a motion, and it was Mr. Malva, second, Mr. Coffin. Students?
Aye.
Calling for the board vote. before we move on from this too, I want to say one thing. It has passed, and this is one of those things that when we do it, we need to let people know. All right?
I will put it in my board briefs.
This is a good thing. It needs to go on our Facebook page. People need to know that Lodi Unified raised the pay for substitute teachers.
I know the Sentinel's doing it right now, see?
Sentinel's out. Thank you, John, appreciate that.
Pressure on.
Take copious notes.
Mr. Neely, our newspaper program at our school is also, they looked at the agenda items and they actually brought it to my attention as well, so they will be writing a story on that as well.
Make sure they do.
Oh, I definitely will.
Thank you. Okay, the next item, provisional internship permit and approval. Mr. McKelligan again.
Yeah, Mr. Neely, board, this is one of those required things we need to bring to you to make sure that you specifically approved all the provisional intern permits as they come along. So we have another teacher that's coming on board that will be on one of those.
Mr. President, I move approval.
Second.
Discussion. Discussion from the public. All right, let's call for the vote.
Students.
Oh, students, I'm so sorry.
That's all right, you've been out there for a long time.
Yeah. What do you think, guys? Yes or no? All right, we got an eye from students. Thank you. Personnel matters. Mr. McKelligan again.
All right, for the final time, Mr.
Listen to the
Neely.
beer. Maybe that's
I'm
what.
going to surprise you tonight. On page 2 and 3 of the personnel matters, we have Roxana Velasquez and Angela Boulihan are being recommended for appointment as bus drivers. That's clear on the personnel matters. The department is incorrectly noted as technology. I want to show you that we only employ bus drivers in the transportation department. So we will make that notation. So you are approving tonight with that little correction there, okay?
Thank you, Mr. McKelligan.
For the clarification, Mr. Chairman, I move we approve these
Motion?
personnel matters.
Second.
And a second. Students do not vote on personnel matters. Calling for the board vote. And we have passed 6-1. Communications, comments from student representative. Guys, you're on. Who would like to go first? Let's do it.
Mr. Neely, members of the board, Dr. Washer. So we just came back from 2-week break and we had a lot going on from the last time I have spoke in front of you guys. Something that Bear Creek is doing new this year, our ASB Vice President Julian Bernardo, you'll be hearing quite a bit about him in this report, but he has designed a club takeover week. So Bear Creek very much prides itself on its diversity, and so we have a large number of clubs on campus, and we have a lot of student involvement in the clubs, and we kind of wanted to celebrate that this year. And so the purpose of this Club Takeover Week is to embrace Bear Creek's unique traits of diversity, as I said before, and celebrate kind of all clubs on campus. So we're going to have a spirit day for the community service clubs, the dance clubs, the cultural clubs, the performing arts clubs, and Club Fusion Day. And so these will include performances at lunch and from various different ethnic groups. And so we're very excited for that. This is the first time we're doing it. And our students seem to be very excited about that as well. So you will get an update on that when that occurs. This will be about the October 23rd through the 27th. For student government matters, overall class progress report, our students and our representatives are all in elected positions. And they're doing a fantastic job. What we did this year with the first day extravaganza was kind of reintroduce the students, kind of get them more accustomed to Bear Creek life sooner. And so there wasn't that class divide. And we have seen that in our student government class, freshmen and sophomore representatives are interacting more with the juniors and seniors, and that's what we kind of want, because we're kind of molding them to kind of take these future positions that we will leave behind when we go to college and take leadership positions there. So we did have a mentoring program where we had a checks and balances system where each individual would be assigned 2 to 3 people from the upperclassmen to the lowerclassmen, where we would kind of train our students and kind of tell them, hey, this is what we look for, this is what we want. We kind of teach them how to present themselves in a certain manner and how to kind of approach various audiences. So, for example, we kind of taught them when you approach your fellow peers, you won't be kind of talking in this in this kind of professional manner, you'd be much more colloquial. And so it's kind of evolved into something with a more personal relationship. So we see these students hanging out outside of the classroom and kind of forming more of a friendship rather than just a work partnership. So that's something that has been done on its own naturally. It's something that I am very happy to see within our school, kind of creating a more familial bond. As for performances, presentations, and events, we did have our homecoming dance on September 16th. It was the largest homecoming dance that we've ever had. Students had a great time. It was just an amazing night for sure. Our student government, we worked very hard on it, and it showed. Students were very excited. I think this was the largest attendance of any dance in Bear Creek history, so that is very exciting for us. Bear Creek Theater. So we have had some discussions at school that the theater program is somewhat underappreciated, as well as many of the performing arts are. So I kind of want to bring light to that. They're doing a fall project of Lorimi, and so this is something that's new, and a lot of students on campus are interested in this. They have already started on the spring production of High School Musical, which is something that people are more. It was more recognizable, so they would have a larger attendance there. So that's something that the theater program is doing. My vice president, Julian Bernardo, as for academic accomplishments, had an SAT score of 1560 out of 1600. He got a perfect 800 on the math portion, and he got a 760 on reading. Yeah, and so we're hoping for the best for him. He's applying to a couple big schools such as Stanford, so we're trying to see if we're trying to display what Lodi USD can produce, and so we're very proud of him at Bear Creek. Co-curricular wise, football has been struggling a little bit in the league, but they're working very hard to kind of regain. They need to go on a 3-game win streak to automatically qualify for playoffs. Bear Creek's tennis team is currently 7-3, which we're very happy about. They have shown dominance within the past couple of years. Another co-curricular event, our Kababayan Club, which is our Filipino club at school, they took first place in Kilusan. And Kilusan is kind of an event that kind of embraces the Filipino ethnicity and kind of celebrates their diversity and what they've done for our community and many other communities across the country. And so Bear Creek actually did take first place overall, which we're very happy about. It's the first time in school history. And we had the ASB treasurer for my school is the president of that club, so we're very excited to see not the leadership kind of overflowing from student government into various other areas of campus. So that's something that we're very happy about. Upcoming activities, football games. Bear Creek is at Franklin this week. Next week, Bear Creek we'll play Chavez at home, and our senior night on the 3rd of November is when we play McNair. So that is going to be, I think, the determining game whether or not Bear Creek will make it to the playoffs. Powder Puff will be on the 17th of November, and Bear Creek's having their first ever winter formal dance on the 9th of December. So we have a lot going on, and we're very proud of our students and our student body for what they're doing, because this is something that I feel has been kind of looked over in the past, but our students are doing a great job, and they are very excited for the future and our future events. Thank you for your time.
Fantastic, John. Thank you very much. Well, I was going to say, maybe you could go out there and help the football team.
No, I wanted to mention, Raj, what a positive guy you are.
Oh, thank you.
You know, my gosh, everything is positive. I didn't hear anything negative. I know that Bear Creek lost to Stag last weekend. But one thing is, what is your largest club at school?
Our largest club is currently our Key Club.
Key Club.
Yes.
Thank you. Again, Kiwanis Club in Stockton, which I'm a member, sponsors that Key Club.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
And Raj, don't worry, I'll straighten him out on football.
Oh, please do. No, Mr. Goodwin, actually, Mr. Dave Goodwin.
That was a tough win. I did
Yes.
not see the game, but I just read that, it was very
We had
well
opportunities to
played.
put it away. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, Felipe, you're up.
Good evening, Mr. Naley, members of the board, Ms. Dr. Washer. It's really been how many weeks since the last board meeting we were here? It was like 3 weeks. Yeah, we have a lot to report. So starting from basically the beginning, that we like past events, we had our homecoming week. It was viewed as one of the best weeks at Lodi High School amongst many students and staff. The spirit days we had was mathletes versus athletes, pink and blue day, you still don't vote here day, class color and red and white day. We had activities on days, so we would basically just hype it up is what we use the word now, to the football game, which was Bear Creek versus Lodi, which is a home game. We had events such as the sunrise breakfast, the tailgate, and an ice cream party during both lunches. For our acts of kindness, Lodi High UNICEF Club helped prepare and serve meals at the St. Mary's Dining Hall. And our Change for Texas drive, we collected over $1,200 throughout the campus. And right now, TRL is working on getting donations for the Sonoma fires and the fire victims. And student government is taking part to help them out, get donations. And then going back from the announcement video we had, I'm seeing that since Bear Creek starting their YouTube account, Miss Dr. Washer starting the YouTube account, and we're gonna start the YouTube account. This announcement video that we had basically is changing. Lodi USD is becoming more advanced with this technology that we're having. So the announcement video we had is basically changing the idea of what announcements really are. We're getting big announcements said, instead of getting them on a speaker, we're making sure that the students are understanding what's happening and making sure they're involved. For performance, presentation, and events, the Naviance Family Connections, which is a college and career search program managed by our Lodi High counselors, is a college, basically a college source for our students and all the students at Lodi Unified School District. And it's basically all their college apps. And right now, only Lodi High School kids are getting their letters of recommendation going through the Naviance Family Connection. And the next year, following all the other 3 high schools we have are going to get that. For special staff student accomplishments, we have on November 3rd, November 2nd, we're having our Block L for academics ceremony, which Ms. Bonnie Cancel attends, and she's going to be giving out awards. And if any of you guys want to be giving out awards as well, Ms. Dr. Washer, you guys can go ahead and shoot an email to Mr. Blodgett, and would love for you guys to attend. It's November 3rd.
Second.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know. Sorry, I don't know what I'm talking about. It's November 2nd. We have a total of 204 students receiving either pins or the Block L. 38 of them are receiving their silver pins, which are seniors. And right now they're working towards getting the gold pin for the 7th semester of receiving a 3.8 GPA. For our co-curricular, our speech and debate competition that was held in Modesto, 5 students attended against 17 other schools, and Jasmine Owens placed 3rd place against 20 other students, and congratulations to her. Upcoming events we have would be the annual Haunted House fundraiser and the Lodi Lights Parade that we're just reaching out to the community, getting involved. That's all for it.
Fantastic, Felipe.
One question on November 2nd. What's the time on this block celebration?
I believe it's 6:30 out.
In the evening?
Yeah. If not, I'll shoot an email to Ms. Dr. Washington.
We'll get it back.
Okay, very good.
Okay.
Felipe, good job, man.
Thank you.
Anything else, anybody? All right, just a question, real quick. Felipe, you said you guys were getting your own YouTube channel and you're gonna do your announcements over that, is that what I?
Yeah, so the YouTube account is basically the announcements is getting projected by the teachers.
Right.
So the students can see the announcements.
Okay, so is that gonna be, I mean, can they do it when they want to, or is it a live thing, or?
It's basically, if you're to search up right now, we can see it now.
Okay, all right. And, Raj, do you guys do that already?
Mr. Neely, we are currently not doing a visual aid to our announcements.
Yeah.
We do have many teachers put up the bulletin where it shows the agenda, not the agenda items, but like the main speaking points of the announcement, but it's not as complex as a video. But we are starting our own YouTube channel where we're going to have, where we have club announcements and just things similar to what Lodi High is doing and what Dr. Washer's vision is for the Lodi Unified School
That's a
District.
great idea. So I think that's fantastic. I'm on a committee with our tech people looking at the ability, giving some students the ability to take computers home We don't know where we're going to be on that yet. I mean, that's, the digital life is becoming so much a part of our district. So thank you guys very much. All right, comments from employee group representatives. Seeing none? Oh, Phil.
No, we're, Rochambeau, we're trying to figure out who goes first.
Good evening, Mr. Neely, members of the board, and Superintendent Washer. I'm Deborah Ladwick, president of the CSEA Classified School Employees here. And I want to thank you for passing our tentative agreement tonight. When I stood here last time, I was able to tell you we were going back into negotiation and we were going to get it done, and we did. So thank you very much for that. We had quite a turnout. Todd was in charge, and we had over 300 folks that showed up here last night to vote. Over 90% support, so I think it was very popular. People are excited and just ready to move on. We have our chapter meetings on Tuesday nights before the board meeting, the second board meeting of the month. So I just came from our chapter meeting where we were talking about all of the fires, that have been going on. And CSEA has a fund that they keep. It's called the Dorothy Bjork Fund, and it's it's named after one of our previous state presidents. And when we were talking about the fires, and we have, of course, members all throughout the state who've been affected, our chapter voted to donate $500 to the fund, and I was so proud. I just couldn't believe it. I didn't mention it. It came from the floor. And so that was just, I was so excited to be able to say that we're going to send a donation to the fund. Other than that, we're all back from break and ready to go and looking forward to a great second quarter. So thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Deborah. And thank you for all your work getting that money. Great. Anybody else? Evening, Michelle.
Hello again. A couple of things that we'd like to bring to your attention is issues with one, communication. We think it's really important that our members have different venues in order to communicate within our membership, but also with you as the board, their administrators, and leaders at the district. I know with updates on technology last week, there were quite a few little glitches and members that were locked out of systems, and it's kind of getting squared away, but that has been a topic of concern. As we talk about student discipline and safe schools, we had a parent come up and speak to you a couple weeks ago. We are still hearing that there are school sites and teachers that are not feeling that their school sites are safe, that there are still disruptions on campus and in classrooms. There is tension and there is struggle with the new system of PBIS and the rolling out. And there's 3 tiers of that, and it was rolled out in different times. And there's, I think, how we're doing. I think the first tier 1 that rolled out worked out some of the bugs, but we're still hearing from members concerns with PBIS, and the concerns on the flip side to that are that there's no consequences for poor student behavior and disrupting instruction in classrooms. That ARIES reporting system, teachers have noted that now prep teachers are able to input disruptions and issues that happen with students in the ARIES system, but they're still struggling to see what the outcomes are. Students are just returning back to class without it seeming that there's any kind of consequence for the student or a change in the student's behavior, and they're coming back and still disrupting instruction. So we'd like to see what kinds of communication teachers can work towards without feeling that they're going to be target on their back for bringing up the concerns to their administrator they're not seeing the results. So I have members that are afraid to come forward and say, my administrator, I don't feel that they're addressing these needs. So if maybe we can talk about next steps, how do we make sure that those teachers that are feeling they need another venue other than just emailing all their board members to get resolution to next steps. I have directed some to Enrique, our positive climate person, and I understand that he has been trying to answer some of those emails, but there's a group that does not feel that they can come forward without fear of, and the only word I can think of is retaliation, that then it's not on them. You know, they're not seeing or feeling that their classroom safety and atmosphere is improving. The question has also come up with leadership teams. It's a wide spectrum from the leadership team is making all of these decisions on a site to the leadership team has not met at all so far this year. So if we're continuing with the model of leadership teams on school campuses, maybe we need a clear defined purpose as to what they are responsible for. There's also concern with school site councils, their bylaws and the site plans that come to you. The teachers, as stakeholders, are questioning whether they really have a say in how those dollars are spent. I'm getting emails regarding this has already been approved, it's already been sent to the board, now we're being asked for what our input is. So after the fact. So maybe that communication of looking at those school site plans first and having the stakeholders talk about those dollars and what's important at their site, kind of like the LCAP. Let's get the information from our stakeholders as to what the priority is in the beginning before we write the plan instead of after it's written and been approved. So communication and kind of teachers to that next level as to how they can make sure that they have someone else that they can talk to. And yes, I'm one person and they feel that they should have someone else to talk to at the district level. So as we go forward with school site councils and leadership teams and we look at money and those dollars spent, we know that we're looking at changing LCAP and getting more community input and more stakeholder input. How does that affect then our school site plans and school site council and leadership teams to make those decisions on the budget? So it's kind of a wave rippling, and how does that ripple back to the classroom teacher and their needs and being able to communicate that? And with their needs, counseling, we are so excited about the community liaisons and the SAFE program that's been extended. We've heard very positive reports from that they're seeing that difference. So as we look at, they requested those needs, they had a voice in that. How can we make sure that there's a voice in those other things and that they're authentic and that they're in the timely manner that they are given an opportunity to share? Thank you.
Hey, Michelle, before you leave, what school's got the best school site council program? Which one works the best?
I can't tell you that. I don't know. I usually hear the negative. I can't say that I've heard one that's positive. I've had members that say they can't even get a hold of the bylaws at their site. So there are concerns, and we've addressed who they need to talk to get a copy of the bylaws to make sure that the quorums are being held. We've had issues with members being asked to post-date things, which we know is not good.
Right.
So we'd like to make sure, if school site council is important in making those decisions and bringing forth the parents and the teachers together to make a change in the budget and what they think is a great intervention program. Let's make sure that they all are having a say in that. Which ones are best? I can get back to you.
You know what, I'd like to find out, and maybe we can emulate in other places what they're doing at the best. Also leadership program too. You said sometimes some schools have leadership programs that are working great. Oh, we need to look at that too.
Well, some are making,
Just a
yeah,
thought.
yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate the report, and sounds like communication is big on that. Any other employee groups, John? Just gonna chill out?
Yeah.
All right. Comments from board members?
Yeah, Mr. Neely, just a quick comment here, because it really concerns me. I don't know how serious this problem is, but there was just mentioned some school sites are unsafe. I would like to find out what's happening at those school sites with the PBIS and correct the problem, because it's that's why we're here, is to have safe schools, and if it's one person or two people, I mean, then that can be probably corrected right away, as opposed to the whole system school. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you, sir. If you'd like.
Right.
You speak, we'll listen.
All right, this will be short. Right before break, I had the great opportunity to visit one of my favorite country schools that has been reinvented into an entirely different school. So Tokay Colony, remember, was one of those country schools like way east of 99 out in the boondocks that had been a country school for multi-generations of farm and ranch families. And then the board, I think, Joe, you were part of this, we actually had to shut it down because of declining enrollment. But it's been brought back to life in the best possible way. It is now called Turner Academy at Tokay Colony. And the students who attend Turner Academy at Tokay Colony, if they weren't there, they would not be in our district. They would have had to have been sent to schools outside our district. So the facility is working extremely well for them in that lovely, quiet country setting. The principal is Marie Cafesi. She reports that students are thriving there. She has an excellent staff. I met most of them. And she gave a real shout out to the supervisors that support her work at Turner Academy, and that would be Jonathan Martin and Paul Warren. So I wanted to mention that. It's a great visit. And then I also went to Millswood Career Fair right before the break, and that was wonderful, bringing in community members to talk about their professions. And I have to give a shout out, because the whole staff did, as I kind of cruised around and visited there. A newer counselor named Aubrey Gonzalez had organized and put on the entire event, and it was stunning, and the whole staff was commenting and thanking Aubrey. And then Felipe and Raj, I have to tell you, I think your schools are so lucky to have you. You are so energetic and innovative and dynamic. And we love your reports, so thank you. Thank you for your leadership.
Thank you, Ms. Castle. That means everything to our school and our community. Thank you. We appreciate that.
Thank you, Ms. Castle. Mr. Dawkins, anything? Okay. Gentlemen?
Very quickly, Mr. Vice President. One of the things we greatly appreciate is the artwork, and we have new artwork outside of our hallway here. So thank you, Modesto Ranch, for the great pictures. I believe we have them from second graders. I may be wrong, but they're absolutely spectacular, and the board greatly appreciates them. Also, our other wall is honoring our school district veterans. So Veterans Day is around the corner. So get your photographs in, and I think one of our board members is prominently displayed. Martha, you're on that board too. So anyway, congratulations to all of our veterans, and look forward to seeing new pictures this year.
Mr. Knaxat? Yep. Good. Okay, real quick, I'm gonna echo Mr. Nava on this about the unsafe schools. If that's a reality, we need to fix that. We need to at least start looking at that now. I want to mention something that was brought up at a CSBA meeting, which was really kind of interesting. they're using special diplomas and doing ceremonies for students that are moving from one SELT level to another. So they're making it a big thing to try to make the kids want to move up. And they're reporting some success at that. So it's a good program to help our ELD. Also, I went out to Nichols today for a Measure U meeting. And wow, I tell you what, it was really impressive. See, first of all, the site itself is really looking good. And I got to hand it to your department and your leadership on this, because it's looking good. Schools are fantastic. You drive by McNair. Oh man, it looks so much better than you see the football field out there. So things are moving along really, really well. And Susan, the principal out there at Nichols, made the comment that said not only did it get done, but it was quality work. And you could look around and see that. So pass that on to your people if you would, please. And that's all I have for right now. Superintendent, do you have anything else?
Mr. Neely,
Yes, ma'am.
actually I do, just a couple comments. I want to thank our CSCA chapter for being a sponsor of Casino Night. We appreciate you helping and donating to Got Kids, so thank you very much for that. To our student reps, a couple of things. If you have items that you want advertised district-wide, your upcoming events, shoot me an email. We have a district Facebook. We'd be happy to put your information on the district Facebook. And also, I heard both of you talk about community service, acts of kindness. So I need to ask for your help. We have extended our deadline for our film competition on our Simple Acts of Kindness campaign. So if any student or group of students or class or student leadership class would like to submit an idea on a simple act of kindness, you can just shoot me an email. I'll put it in the contest for you, and you could have an opportunity to create a film with Joey Travolta and his professional film crew. So the deadline has been extended to Friday. So please help us get the word out to that so we can get some submissions in for that. The YouTube was mentioned. Our next YouTube session for the district will be October 30th, and maybe this is good timing. The topic is PBIS, and our special guest will be Enrique. So folks out in the school site will have an opportunity to submit questions and comments, and we'll have Enrique right there to answer those. So thank you.
I can see you having this setup, like a TV show, where the interview going on there. Have a couple lounge chairs there.
Didn't quite work out that way the first time, but we'll work on it.
You're good progressive. Okay, all right. Thank you, Dr. Washer. All right, one report item, preschool programs, mainstreaming update, Ms. Lamke. Yeah? You absolutely can. You got a microphone, you go for it.
Hello, welcome everybody. I just wanted to ask Mr. Neely, as our sitting-in president, if when we go through the PowerPoint presentation, could we go slide by slide? The first couple of slides as the introduction, they're the middle group of slides. I personally have questions, and it would be better, I think, to just address those as the slide is on the whiteboard. And then I did want to, do we have preschool staff members in the audience? Would you mind just standing? And thank you. And I wanted to say that this PowerPoint is going to be all about you. You're in the trenches, and the staff as well. So after we're done with the PowerPoint, it would be fantastic if you're comfortable with talking to the board about your perspective. And then I just wanted to thank Julie McDonald, who I know is there, for her leadership and advocacy on this subject. of inclusive classrooms, and there's no one who knows that better because Julie, in fact, has one of those classrooms that I visited, and I was so impressed. So your contribution, Julie, has been very pivotal and valuable to where we are tonight. And with that, welcome. I'm very anxious to hear your report. Thank you.
Good evening. We're here to give you an update on progress that has been made on the preschool programs in the district regarding inclusion and mainstreaming opportunities for our preschool students. As you recall, I believe late spring, we had a full report at that time with information regarding our preschool and special ed programs. At that time, we identified area that we definitely needed some improvement. There's room for improvement. After that board meeting, myself and Jonathan Martin had continued conversations about how to begin having both the special ed department and our preschool readiness program, our general ed program, which is Head Start and State Preschool, work together to understand each other's programs so that we can take every opportunity to see where we can start improving the areas in mainstreaming and inclusion. After those conversations, we had the preschool administrators who were in charge of those programs begin working together to develop a plan, and they're going to go into details about what came about it. But in general, they did come up with some guidelines. Well, that was one of the things that was missing that we identified when we talked in the spring, that there was no clarity regarding procedures and guidelines for all those programs to work together. And so the first part was to understanding for those programs, understand the regulations regarding special ed, federal program, and state program, and to see where the commonalities were, what was different, and to learn from one another. And so we started with the program administrators, and then they led it on to discussions at those sites with teachers to have input and start the progress of improvement in those areas. So tonight we have here who are going to go into details are our administrators, Denise Shigematsu, Angie Tobe, and Florence Castamagna. Did I say it right? I practiced. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and give them go into more detail on those how they work together.
Vice President Neely, members of the board, Dr. Washer, it's with our pleasure and a lot of work on the parts of the administrators, the programs, and the teachers that we are here tonight to give you an update on the previous board report that we did. Mrs. Lampkin shared a lot about what we're doing, and we are here tonight to share that there's been a lot of input that has happened throughout between both departments and the staff at all levels, and also to bring attention to the efforts to include both programs or both departments, and to bring along and share with you our shared vision that has come from that. So what we really are attempting to do here, the effort is going forward to bring together special education and school readiness and preschool to work closely together to create effective programs that promote high quality learning in safe environments for all children and all students. We have, during the time Mrs. Lampkin referenced let me start here. Start with the, I'm just drawing a blank.
Procedures and guidelines?
No, yes, the procedures and guidelines, thank you. And, both departments had a significant number because we are all funded with federal and state dollars. Both special ed and general ed have procedures in place. So I just want to make sure that you're aware that these programs were not running without procedures and guidelines to begin with, but they truly have procedures and guidelines. It was melding those procedures and guidelines together that we needed to bring to get clarity to and get input from our teachers so that we can proceed and do the best we can for all students. So before we proceed, I'd like to just make sure that we're all on the same page and give you a definition for inclusion. And inclusion is providing access for typically developing peers for all preschool students with special needs. And although that term inclusive classroom is relatively new, it does comply with the original intention of laws passed by Congress in 1973 and in 1975. So it's not a new concept. It's just a new some new terminology. I wanted to just redress the preschool classrooms that we do currently operate in Lodi Unified. We have 32 general ed preschools, 15 state preschools at 10 different campuses, 17 Head Start classrooms at 13 different campuses, for a total of 633 students. We have in special education 8 SDC mild to moderate classes, 4 SDC moderate to severe classes, 10 SDC moderate severe autism classes, 1 SDC deaf and hard of hearing class, for a total of 11 sites, 23 campuses, 118 students. Within those sites, there were meetings held at each of those campuses where there is both general ed and special ed preschools. Those sites are Wagner Holt, Claremont, Lawrence, Washington, Creekside, Live Oak, Park Lane, Westwood, and Beckman. All of those sites, there were opportunities for administrators, both from the 2 departments and schools, and teachers coming together to work on a shared vision and the specific mechanics of how to make the inclusion happen at each of their campuses.
And I do have a question on this slide.
Sure.
At the very top, the 15 state preschools, 17 Head Start. Could you explain to all of us what's the difference?
Okay. Primarily funding. The state preschool funding comes from the California Department of Education. And with the Head Start, that money comes from the Office of Head Start at the federal level. In both cases, there are eligibility criteria that we must comply with in order to enroll those children. Primarily income, family size, and in the case of Head Start, some additional at-risk criteria that are determined at the county and then federal level.
Yes, and these children are all 3 and 4.
Correct.
So they're the little guys.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of added up the math here, more or less. We are talking about well over 700.
Yes.
Very small children, and we all have been hearing a lot of how preschool works for all kids.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
When we show 10 sites and 13 sites, it doesn't have to be 23 sites. Some of these sites have both the state, and so how many sites are we actually have these schools at?
For the general ed sites, we are on 13 different campuses with those 23 classrooms, or 32 classrooms, I'm sorry.
32 classrooms.
Mm-hmm. At 13 campuses.
At 13 campuses, okay.
For special ed.
Are you referring to like, how many sites do we have that have both programs?
Yeah, actually, yeah, well, you've got some sites that have both programs, right?
Yeah, there's 9.
So what's the total number of sites that we have a
throughout the district overall?
Let's see, we have 11 sites, they overlap. We have to kind of figure out which one, like we have 9 that all have them, and then we have to differentiate we'd have to look at the sites. We can get that back to you. We'd have to look at each site and see which one are just preschool, which are just.
The reason I'm wondering about this is because of transportation. That's one of the things that we talked about today out at out at Nichols is they seem to have a very large number of special education young students. And they have 3 different buses that come through there to bring them kids, but they're bringing them from all over. So anyway, okay, I would like to know that.
Yeah, and we can probably address some of that a little further in the presentation in terms of how it's determined who's at what campus.
Okay.
And then in terms of the general ed, there is no transportation. Parents transport.
Got it.
That's me. Mr. Neely, members of the board, Dr. Washer. So you can look at the slides, and basically starting from August 29th through September 12th, Denise, myself, the general education program specialist, and our special education autism specialists met with all the teaching staff from the 9 campuses that were listed in the previous slide. And again, to reiterate, those 9 campuses have both general education preschool classrooms and special education preschool classrooms. At all of those meetings, all the site principals were present, and occasionally there were, I think, 1 or 2 where we had vice principals that were present. In some cases, it was the first time for the teachers to meet and kind of talk about what their programs are about and what they do, which was nice and was evidently it was needed. So during these 9 meetings, the following items were addressed. So the first was that as a group, we defined what outdoor learning is. And so just like we did in these meetings, typically when we first started, we were referring to these meetings as recess inclusion. And realistically, when you think of recess, you're thinking of a break for teachers, a break for students to kind of, go out and get that outdoors time. But with preschool, it's different because it's actually part of instructional minutes. So as a group, we all agreed that it needed to be rephrased to outdoor learning. So that was agreed upon, and during these meetings, we discussed inclusion opportunities during outdoor learning and lunch opportunities. So in the attachments, you'll see the handouts that were given at all 9 meetings. They were all the same, and they are the procedures, guidelines, and best practices that all the teachers had a chance to read over individually, and then as a group we came back and we answered any questions, clarified any of the statements, and then basically everyone agreed that they would follow these rules, guidelines, procedures, and best practice. So those are in the attachments if you'd like to look at them. From the meetings, the teachers themselves discussed, amongst themselves, they discussed how can they give their students inclusive opportunities. So we acted as the administrators, and the specialists acted as facilitators, kind of guiding the conversations. But in the end, it was up to the teachers to decide how they wanted to create a schedule for these opportunities to happen. And every site did create a schedule with what would work best for them. But it is also important to note that there were some teachers who felt that based on their students' identified needs or things that were in their IEP goals, that inclusion during outdoor learning or during lunch was not in the best interest of their students. So yes, there are some classes where that's not happening, but that is because it's due to the child's identified needs and it not being developmentally appropriate. So currently what's happening is that these schedules are being implemented, but it's also realistic to say that there have been glitches, and we do have our program specialists and our autism specialists who sat in on these meetings out in the field to provide support to make sure that these opportunities are optimal.
Angie, could I ask you, in these initial meetings that you had, the law, of course, says that inclusion is the ideal model. And so that was prevailing, I would hope, that thought. And I understand the glitches, that makes sense to me. But was that impressed upon everyone that law, and this is a law going back to 1973, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, advocates for inclusion, and current law certainly sustains that. So that was prevailing, I trust.
When we met, and that's why it was important to have general ed staff there and special ed staff there, is that it all depends on the student's IEP and the less restrictive environment for that student depending on their disability. So it's really individualized, and the special ed teachers are the ones who has that expertise on determining what was the least restricted situation for their particular children. And there were a few cases, most of them were more than open to participate, but there were in some situations where some kids with especially the severe classes, where they felt that would be a little too much stimulation for their children, and they wanted to hold off and wait. And maybe they had maybe 2 students in the class that might be ready for that, then they said those 2 students, and they kind of worked it out. So that they really kept that in mind, and that was really an opportunity for the special ed teachers to share their expertise on what they know about these children individually. Did you want to add anything, things?
Well, I was to say, one thing that I got out of all of the meetings, visiting each site with all of the teachers, was a great level of excitement to provide these opportunities for all of our students. And, one of the reasons our autism specialists were there is because when you have a student with autism, and they're the ones that greatly benefit from the inclusion, as do all students, but students with autism, they have to learn social play. But you have students levels 1, 2, and 3, and the level 1s are, they need a lot of help and development, so some of them might not even know that a student is sitting next to them. So at that point at the beginning of the year, they may not be ready to go out to a playground full of children. It might be overstimulating. But the levels 3 student, who are generally ones that are going to be ready to go right into general ed kindergarten, and they have they're higher achievers, or not higher achievers, but they're more have higher skills. They're easier to place within inclusion. But right now, all of our classrooms have level 1s, 2s, and 3s. So some of the students are ready, and that's just because it's the beginning of the year. So there's a plan for the year that they will eventually be moving into them, because we don't keep our level 1s. We don't want to keep them at level 1. We want to move up to level 2 and 3.
Sure, and thank you. And I certainly appreciate that, absolutely. And I also know that the formation of the class was made long before the end of the summer. And so I appreciate, and thank you for sharing that with all of us. Just wanted to make sure that the goal, when possible, was inclusion.
Yes.
When appropriate.
That was our topic. Was
yeah. Thank
how we
you.
can include students.
I have one question. Preschool, do they go to class all day long, or half a day, or 3/4 of a day, or what?
For general ed, our state preschool children are 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. For Head Start, we have 2 different models, and that's determined by our grantee. There's 3.5 hours for some children, and we just started, yesterday, 7 classrooms that are at 6 hours, basically like an extended day kindergarten. The federal government has done some research and determined that children that are at risk for school success are more apt to achieve goals and maintain their achievement if they have at least 1,020 hours of quality preschool in a year. And so that's where the 6 hours has come into. The goal at the federal level is that by 2022, I'm going back in time here, in 2022, that all children receiving Head Start services in the United States will have 6-hour preschool. So we will be part of that movement, but we're not there yet. And then it varies
Yeah, for special ed, we have mild mod students, which the majority or a large number of them are students with speech and language deficits. And those are 3-hour programs. We have morning and the afternoon. Then we have mod severe students, which are intellectually disabled, and those are also 3 hours in the morning and the afternoon. And then we have our third set of students are structured classes, which have students with autism in them, and those are actually 5-hour programs. They're all 5 days a week.
What a neat program. I'm really pleased that we have the opportunity to provide preschool for all these children. Thank you.
Mr. Neely and members of the board and Dr. Washer. One of the things that was holding us back was waivers, because preschool has all these license and restrictions, and Angie shared with me some of the wording, and they're concerned about their preschool, their Head Start, and their state preschool students first. And so if there's a playground, those are the students that get to use it. And they said if we have other students that are using it from outside, we have to apply for waivers. So that's already in the works. Angie's been keeping in communication with the state to see how far along we are. They're pending, and we're very hopeful that that's going to take place. However, we have moved forward, and we are including our students. We've also are providing professional development for all of our special ed students. Our special ed teachers. And with the help of Karen Huckle, I have to mention her. She's one of our program specialists. She's oversees preschool. We are bringing in once a month all of our special ed teachers, and we're working on strengthening our programs because we have a variety of students with different needs. And there are some that are intensive, and they go to NPA, non-public agencies, and get services. And we can bring those students back. And so we're focusing on strengthening our programs using the latest research, evidence-based practices, so that when we have a student that's eligible, we can place them within our own preschool classes. And I've been really excited to work with all of we have 23 preschool teachers, 22 that are part of this training. And they've been instrumental in moving this forward and, wanting to do great things for all of our preschool students. And the inclusion is just another step in getting that program to where we want it to meet all of our students' needs, because it's about the students and what we can do for them and how we can help them grow.
Denise, could I stop you there for just a second? I just want to paraphrase what you just said to make sure I'm getting this right. So we must send kids away from our facilities, but with this training, you said that our own children could then come back and join us with this professional development piece. Some of them.
It's not just professional development. That's a large part of it. We've had, as you know, we have a lot of interns, and our preschool program are made up of veteran teachers who've had a lot of professional development and new teachers that have not had the amount, and we wanted everyone to be on the same page. So we're bringing in a trainer, and we work with the teachers to say, is this what the direction you want to go? And we wanted everyone on board before we move forward. And so that's one part of the piece. Our vision is to create a program where students are moving in and out of programs as they're leveling up. We're exploring preschool centers in different ways to help make this happen.
Okay, thank you.
One question, Denise, on the phase out of NPA programs. Are there programs that provide these services for those preschool kids, the non-public school agencies?
Yes.
There are?
Yes.
And do you send very many there?
Right now we have 23. I think we're at 23 right now.
Wow.
23 and 25. Yeah, 25.
Interesting. My gosh.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And then we have a preschool assessment team. We are updating the assessments. We're working with our team members, and the teachers that go out and assess are the ones that do the 3-hour program. So they do 3 hours teaching and then 3 hours in the afternoon. And they work with psychologists and the speech therapists, nurses to assess students and see if they're eligible and then write goals for them. We want to make sure that they're all on the same page. They're very excited about updating the assessments. We're going to bring in some, with this training that we're doing with all of them, we can bring in curriculum and plan that as part of the assessments because, as you know, our biggest growing numbers are our students with autism. We have 80% of our preschool students do have autism. And the numbers were 68-1, and we just heard about a month ago that's going to move up to about 44-1. So at this point, that's why we're focusing on autism training because all of our teachers, all 22, actually even 23 are deaf, hard of hearing, have students with autism. And so we want to make sure that teachers are all on the same page and that they're working together because when they have a common language and they're using the same instructional strategies, I think that really builds for a very strong program to move our
Denise,
students forward.
I'm sorry about this, but would you explain those ratio that you said 80%
Of our
Yeah.
high school
Okay.
students.
And what are the ratios? I wasn't quite catching that you just talked about.
Oh, 80% of our special ed preschool students, I should say.
Okay,
Oh.
and
Yeah, especially.
of the okay, but then you were saying is the other ratios that you were just talking about?
Yeah, statistics show that 1 in 68 students, 1 out of 68 will have autism. And that number, the latest research that has come out, we just heard about a month ago, is going to be released. It's down to 1 in 44 students.
And that's the general population.
Yes, that is. We do have students in general ed that have autism. And they are high functioning and, you know, if they are eligible and need the support, we give that to them. There's many that don't need the support either and they're doing just fine. Yeah.
Thank you.
So next step, so what does that look like moving forward? So the first thing is that we have decided that we plan on visiting other school districts who have successfully implemented inclusion classrooms so that maybe we can emulate what they're doing. And secondly, we will collaborate with teachers, we'll continue to collaborate with teachers to establish rules and guidelines that are compliant and best practices for both programs. Establish PLCs to provide professional development and collaboration with all stakeholders. We're looking into options in which all teaching staff can have consistent planning time. And lastly, we have many students with autism, so being able to create groupings of students with like needs is going to benefit all of the students.
We're working through that with data-driven placements so that we are placing students according to their needs. Because we have various programs, for example, we have the one inclusion program, and so students from levels and eligibilities are in that program. We'd like to expand that so that we can meet individual needs. Right now it's kind of a one-size-fits-all, and we'd like to expand those programs for the classroom inclusion piece. But we don't want to just start throwing students in. We want to make sure that all of our teachers are trained on both sides. The general ed teachers understand special ed and meeting goals and IEPs, and that our special ed teachers understand the regulations and what preschool, general ed preschool have to follow. We have started calling it general ed preschool because that is the mainstream that we want our students to be in. And they set the stage just like a first grade classroom. General ed sets the stage, and this is what we work for, and that's why the handouts that have been uploaded, that's why we came together, and it was important to us that both general ed and special ed, we're looking at these, and are we all agreeing that this is a great basis and foundation for strong preschool programs. We're also exploring purchasing spots in general education preschool classrooms, and that's one way of including students. We can't just say, hey, you have 24 students, we're going to give you 6 more, like we can in K-12. They have guidelines and limitations, so correct me if I'm wrong. I'm learning a lot about the general ed preschool. So state, I believe, can have up to 24, and Head Start can have 17. So one of the things that districts have done, they've purchased, say, 8 slots. And that's what we did in Julie's case. Although there was a glitch about double dipping and how we pay them, and so we have to further research how exactly that's going to work, because they're paying for those 8 slots right now, but that's something we're exploring and certainly going to address. And then we can take our students and put them in, but then there's the whole low income issue that we have to work with. So again, it's not just a matter of let's combine these kids. It's going to take a lot of work and a lot of procedures and guidelines. We want to do it right. We want to make sure that we have that foundation, and that when our teachers go in and our parents, everyone is understanding and we're all on the same page, so that we can give the students the best we possibly can. And then I just wanted the other thing we're exploring is our mild mod. We have 8 mild mod classes, and many of them are there for language. And right now we only have a one-size-fits-all. It's 5 days a week for 3 hours. And so we have 8 classes because that's the only thing we can offer them. But many of those students really only need a 2-day-a-week program or a 3-day-a-week program. And so we're looking into creating those kinds of programs for our students, and then that will lower the number of preschool mild mod classes anyway that we have, and we can focus on their language needs and move them in. It's similar to you have the general ed preschool, and they would, we'd like our students, our language students, to be in there learning language with other students, and then have the support come to those classrooms like we do in K-12. So that is where we are and next steps, and we have a lot of work still to do, but we're on this great journey. And other questions?
It's a great journey. Florence, how many teachers do you have?
32.
32, and you have no problem filling those positions?
We actually have 3 vacancies out of this. So we have 29 teaching today. We have a number, 2 of our teachers that are doing a morning and an afternoon, covering both classes, which compromises what they can do in terms of, their prep and meeting their compliance piece. But it's keeping children in classrooms and quality going to those children.
I'm glad, because it takes a special kind of person to do what you people do.
Absolutely.
Great job. Nice report. Very good. Thank you very much, Angie, Florence, and Denise. I haven't seen you in a long time because you're hiding behind the lines here. And Ms. Lampkin, thank you.
Do any of our preschool teachers that are here, any of you like to add to this? Okay. Are you fairly satisfied with the report? Okay. All right, good.
I'd like to just make
Michelle, you got something you want to add to it? I'm sorry, somebody was saying something?
I was just going to make one last comment. I just want to commend the special ed and preschool administrative staff and the general ed teachers and special ed teachers for working collaboratively and giving an opportunity to listen to each other and being open-minded to understand each other's program and work in a respectful manner to do the best that we can for all our kids.
Fantastic.
And after Michelle, I would like to say a couple more things. Thank you.
First, I'm just putting Todd on the spot here. Could you go to the district homepage, to the schools page? Are you able to go to that? There are some things that some teachers that could not be here tonight that sent some questions for the report and the team to share. And there are some things that we kind of found out by surprise and thought, well, this is great, especially, and how many times have I been on the district homepage and gone through, someone asked me about Dorothy Mann today. And I was like, well, I remember it being here. So If on the homepage you go to schools, and then go down to other school sites, and there's a school readiness preschool. Wow. All of it, we had no idea this was there. And although when you look at the preschool is available at the following sites, we believe that that's only the general ed preschool sites. So it's not comprehensive to those that offer SPED preschool. Todd, if you can scroll up, and I believe it was under that tab. There's a Head Start and a State tab on there, if you'll just toggle between one of them. There talks about the eligibility. We found one discrepancy where the Head Start, there's a phone number to call in, and if you go to the State, there's the place on Calavera Street over by Lawrence, over on the left-hand side to go apply. So teachers at the end of last year, beginning of this year, Mr. Neely, we talked about meeting with the preschool teachers and getting a rundown. One of the issues that they brought up was enrollment and enrollment into preschool. And I heard tonight that there are restrictions, as you know, for both Head Start and State and SPED. And I've met with Denise a couple of times to talk about some of the changes for the assessment team. This piece, wow, yay, Lodi Unified. But how many of us even knew it was there? By show of hands, I don't think any of the teachers even knew that this was here. And there's a part for classroom pages and resources that maybe we could put on something for parents to access for preschool, or the form online. Always looking at tech stuff to do. So that was yay, Lodi Unified, and we just kind of stumbled upon that and didn't know it was there. So we'll make sure we communicate that with our members, that that is there, and they can start telling their parents a place to access. Thank you, Todd. We are concerned, the input that the directors facilitated with principals and teachers, that not all of our preschool teachers were addressed. We had a forum with Leah and all SPED, but 2 preschool teachers shared some input, and we shared that data, I think with Mr. Neely in May. So we want to make sure that we are being inclusive, because there are unique things to each site. So we had a question on the 9 meetings. Did that mean that 4 of the sites were left out? As we talked about that there were 13 sites with both?
We met with the 9 sites that have both preschool, general ed,
And special ed.
Because there are 4 sites where there is not both general ed and special ed.
Okay, so we feel that we're missing a piece there in communication. So maybe we can facilitate a discussion then with those other sites that were left out.
Those discussions were about inclusion, right? You gotta have special ed.
And those 4
Well,
were,
Now, maybe we need to go back to those 4 about just generally.
yeah, we just, 2 of them are on, one of them is on Plaza Robles campus, one of them is at Lincoln Tech. So we don't have other preschool students, special ed preschool students, to include in those campuses.
But again, teachers who are at a site alone, and I think everyone can relate to that 6th grade teacher who's the only 6th grade teacher on campus doing CPM. Being a preschool teacher at Lincoln Tech, I can only imagine that you're kind of left alone. So I'm just saying, I think we just, and it's not, as we go forward, maybe including those other teachers in that sharing piece. We appreciate working with Denise about changing part of the assessment model. She's worked really hard and brought teachers in to give input and feedback on how to calendar those assessment. What a nightmare. But we think that there's progress in changing that. One of the things that was brought up today was playground structures. And as we look at changing sites and facilities and making sure that we have structures that meet the needs, I believe it was Westwood that was called out today to me, that they took out the kindergarten structure and put in a preschool structure. But now the kindergartners are feeling that the equipment's too small for them. And so as we make these changes, we need to know that a 3 and 4-year-old is much smaller than a 5, 6-year-old, depending on the campuses. So as we go forward, we really would like to make sure that we're including all stakeholders in those models of changing playground structures or furniture going forward. And on the piece with the next steps, the visiting of other high-quality preschool classes, we would like to see if maybe there could be a superintendent's committee that enlists both state, Head Start, special ed preschool teachers, and has a larger base to go visit those, especially as we go looking at some kind of a center model. I shared some questions with Ms. Chikamatsu tonight, and we look forward to working some more on this model and making sure that all of our teachers working with those little ones have a say in the changes in the program, and that we have buy-in and understanding of what those changes need to be.
Thank you, wonderful presentation. This is so important to our district, so important to our kids. We greatly appreciate you doing what you're doing.
May I address the playground concern? We have the state and the federal government determine playground safety standards for children, and there are 2 playground options. One is 3 to 5 for a structure, or 5 to 8 for a structure, and or 5 to 12 for a structure. So if we put a 5 to 12, even though there are some 5-year-old kindergartners, there are also some 4-year-old kindergartners. If we put a 5 to 12 available to the preschoolers, we are not meeting the state and federal guidelines for playground safety. So that our funding for state preschool and Head Start was dependent on removing the 5 to 12 structure and placing a 3 to 5 structure, so that we're meeting safety guidelines, that are designed at the state and federal level. So I know that some children and some families were saying, that was a cooler playground structure, and I wouldn't argue with them, but we also want to make sure that all of our children are safe.
And just one last thing, this has kind of had an opportunity for the 2 departments to get to know each other. I know that Denise and Florence have spent a lot of time together, and so things are coming up that had not been discussed before. So there's definitely room for improvement, and I appreciate Michelle's comments. We'll note that, and we'll continue to move forward to continue to improve. Thank you.
Other comment? Oh, you had.
Just in closing, thank you all so much. There were barriers, and we know that. I'm never one to dwell in what was past, and that is in the past. And what I heard from you, and I almost get like weepy, I'm sorry, but this is very near and dear to my heart, this whole special ed issue. I hear enthusiasm, I hear best practices, I hear collaboration, I hear departments that weren't working together now are, I do have a keen appreciation for all the regulations. You're dealing with different agencies, for heaven's sake, federal, state, otherwise. I get that very, very much. I think the mantra should be, let there be no barriers, work your way around that. I can see you're doing that. And the goal is such a noble one for these kids, and I know you all know that. And please convey to all the staffs at these schools, thank you. I know this training came on very suddenly, and you had to really get it together, and they had to be okay with all of that.
And so, it's not even November yet. So a lot has happened in a little bit of time on behalf of these little guys. So thank you to all of you for your leadership and to the school staffs for what is to come now as you put this all together for the kids. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, real quick. Florence, Angie, Denise, thank you guys so much. I think you've really thought this thing through, put together a great program. Lodi, thank you. Thank you to all of our teachers. And LEA, thank you for participating in this as well. My final thank you on this is going to be to Dr. Washer, because here's what happened is that a problem was brought to us at one point by our teachers, and you told us that something was wrong, and the district took some action to try to fix it. Now, we're not done yet. We're not done yet, but this is the way that we need to work together as a group, all right? And I'm really, really proud of this district for what everybody did in it, all the participants. So thank you so much for that. Great report. Appreciate it. All right. We're going to wrap it up here real quick. Board Advisory Committee reports, any of them? Seeing none. Future agenda items, anybody got anything? We don't. Next thing on my list is adjourn.
Hey, great. Let's took it out, young man.
Go to casino night. How you doing? Cindy's
I think all
I've been gone the last couple days.
7:30 because Rochelle's just starting back.
Thank you very much. Great job.
Thank you.
What are you doing here, John?
Years ago. This is where you give the president.
Yeah, the script.
Yeah, the script. Yeah. But this is not so good.
I will tell you how it's difficult. This was today.
Is that right?
Just like you said, that's what we're
Young
I
man.
wanted to talk to you real quick, but I'm going to finish up with this guy.
Sounds good.
So basically, in that article, it says the union field.
We did not find your sunglasses.
District
Did you
will
find your sunglasses?
vote to hire additional counsel that affect the schools. What does that include?
I went to tech.
So,
Okay.
What was the
You know,
service?
just gives me